In the Untethered Soul, Michael Singer talks about imagery that I want to emphasize and add texture to. In the human condition, we experience many things that are painful, and many of us are taught to or have the natural instinct to resist these pains. And as a result, they don't go away. We push them more and more deeply in order to give ourselves the sensation that they've gone away, in order to give ourselves an illusion or a mirage of relief from them. And in so doing, we secure that they are with us. Michael Singer refers to this as a thorn. And I imagine this as a thorn in my rib cage. It's poking into my rib cage. And this is something that throughout my youth, I did not try to pull out of my rib cage. I instead built up a protective mechanism around it in order that it not be nudged by anyone, in order that it not create more pain in my system by being nudged, in order that I myself never nudge it. This is something that I'll add a little bit of a different imagery to as well in order to enhance it. Alan Watts speaks about the carrot dangling in front of us as a prize for achievement. And these carrots are manyfold, and every time we grab a carrot, there's another one just ahead, another quota to meet. At first, it's, graduate kindergarten, and then get through to 8th grade, and then graduate high school, and then go to university, and then get your master's degree or PhD. In Alan Watts' talks, he talks about all these carrots that are lined up in front of us such that there's always a quota to meet. And what that implies is that it's never enough, because every time we meet the quota, it grows. What Alan Watts says is that many of us wake up one day to the sudden realization that we've arrived. We've met our goals. We've achieved the heights of what we imagined possible in our lifetimes, and yet we feel the same. We may even feel worse because of the thud of disappointment at recognizing that ultimate achievement wasn't what we thought it would be. I tie in the imagery that Alan Watts had to share with us because I think that these carrots, these achievements, are a primary way that we build a protective structure around our thorn. I think that we elude ourselves with the idea that if we achieve, if we build a resume, if we gather wealth, in order that we can buy things that will cause others to look at what we have collected and make inferences about who we are, what our identity might be, that we will be protected, that we will be able to dodge suffering, that the thorn in our ribcage will not be nudged. Michael Singer suggests pulling that thorn out. I suggest the same. I'll share a little bit of my personal story. I find myself very fortunate in that my body cornered me such that the only thing I could do was pull the thorn out. It delivered me such intense pain physically and psychologically that I did not have the capacity to multitask and deal with the pain as well as other things. The only thing I could deal with was the pain. And what that ended up meaning over years of work was that I meditated as my prominent activity throughout the daytime and oftentimes throughout the night when I wasn't able to sleep. And I would focus on my breath, and I would connect as much as I could to other individuals who were engaged in suffering at the same moment. And I would breathe in that suffering and exhale any semblance of relief that I could find. And in doing that, it expanded in my system. And I imagined it expanding with outside of my system as well. And this slowly, day over day, opened me up. It felt to me like a breaking open, like my heart had already broken, and I was connecting to all the light that could then shine through the cracks in my broken heart. And the imagery that I connected to was that I had the choice to build scar tissue into all of those cracks, or to break them open further and find that the infinite light, our source of energy, was shining through. And I began to connect that sensation of a broken heart as not only a bad thing, but an enormous gift as it expanded everything that I was experiencing. This was, in essence, a huge part of the positive side of uprooting that thorn from my rib cage. What it involved, the nose to the ground work that it involved, was the emergence of the unresolved events, the unresolved traumas that had stored themselves. I'd suppressed, or they'd been oppressed in my system. They'd stored themselves, I imagined, in my cellular memory. And they began to emerge one by one. And due to the fact that I was dealing with immense physical suffering anyway, I began to connect with the thought that at that moment, suffering was inevitable. And so I began to dabble with the experiment of viewing it as an inevitable part of my path. And when I began to adjust the way that I addressed it as it emerged, the quality of it shifted. I think that this is what Michael Singer refers to as moving behind the experience of the melodrama, moving into the seat of consciousness that is watching everything as it emerges on our screen of experience from behind. And something that I engaged in that was consistent no matter the notes that emerged on the screen of my experience and whether I could identify them as positive or negative was wonder. How interesting that's coming up. And as I began to allow the pain to emerge and run through my system, I simply observed what that meant. Where I felt it in my body, in my lungs, in my heart. What did that pain feel like? And then I began to experiment with adding different things to the pain. And it felt like I was enhancing the movement of the pain through my system. What I understand now is that I was moving with the vibration and the warmth in my vagus nerve, which is connected to our tummies and our diaphragms and our brains. I was engaging in neuroplasticity and changing the way the cycle of connection from my brain to and from all the elements of my physiological form that were involved in my physical pain were connecting with each other, and we're sending messaging, and we're dealing with fear. This is the abbreviated story of my own experience of uprooting my thorn. And I want to share it less to suggest the route to take in uprooting a thorn and more to express what is possible in doing so. In order to express, because I know that I can do this with sincerity, because it is all that I am today. The joy, the peace, the relief, the incredible compassion, the light. And I mean that in two ways. I mean sunshine. I also mean fire, so maybe three ways. But there's also a buoyancy, a lightness, a sensation when you engage with the seat of consciousness and move behind the melodrama of the human condition. There is a sensation of suspension in any circumstances that are unfolding before you, whatever they may be. This is the furthest from an insinuation that my human form is not active in its human experience, but me, what I feel at my root of self and my root of connection with the sacred all is a buoyancy. And that's what I want to express. In order to tie this into the first reading that I'll share today, I'm opening my book to page 95. When your mind starts telling you what you have to do to make everything inside okay, don't buy into what it's telling you. The truth is, everything will be okay as soon as you are okay with everything. And that's the only time everything will be okay. All you have to do is stop expecting the mind to fix what's wrong inside of you. That is the core, the root of it all. Your mind is not the guilty party. In fact, your mind is innocent. The mind is simply a computer, a tool. It can be used to ponder great thoughts, solve scientific problems, and serve humanity. But you, in your lost state, told it to spend its time conjuring up outer solutions for your very personal inner problems. You're the one who's trying to use the analytical mind to protect yourself from the natural unfolding of life. I'm going to skip down a little bit, still on page 95. The key is to be quiet. It's not that your mind has to be quiet. You be quiet. You, the one inside watching the neurotic mind, just relax. You will then naturally fall behind the mind because you've always been there. You are not the thinking mind. You are aware of the thinking mind. Without further ado, I'll move on toward today's readings. Enjoy.
Page 65. A wise person remains centered enough to let go every time the energy shifts into a defensive mode. The moment the energy moves and you feel your consciousness start to get drawn into it, you relax and release. Letting go means falling behind the energy instead of going into it. It just takes a moment of conscious effort to decide that you're not going there. You just let go. It's simply a matter of taking the risk that you are better off letting go than going with the energy. When you're free from the hold the energy has on you, you will be free to experience the joy and expansiveness that exists within you. As you grow spiritually, you will realize that your attempts to protect yourself from your problems actually create more problems. If you attempt to arrange people, places, and things so they don't disturb you, it will begin to feel like life is against you. Page 73. When you have fear inside of you, The events of life invariably stimulate it. Like a rock thrown into water, the world with its continuous changes creates ripples in whatever is held within you. There's nothing wrong with that. Life creates situations that push you to your edges, all with the effect of removing what is blocked inside of you. Page 78. When a blockage gets hit, it's a good thing. It's time to open up internally and release the blocked energy. If you let go and permit the purification process to take place inside, that blocked energy will be released. When it's released and allowed to flow up, it becomes purified and merges back into your center of consciousness. This energy then strengthens you instead of weakening you. You begin to go up and up, higher and higher, and you learn the secret of the ascent. The secret of the ascent is to never look down. Always look up. That which is holding you down can become a powerful force that raises you up. You just have to be willing to take the ascent. Page 85. People end up using their relationships to hide their thorns. If you care for each other, you're expected to adjust your behavior to avoid bumping into each other's soft spots. This is what people do. They let the fear of their inner thorns affect their behavior. They end up limiting their lives just like someone living with an external thorn. Ultimately, if there's something disturbing inside of you, you have to make a choice. You can compensate for the disturbance by going outside in an attempt to avoid feeling it, or you can simply remove the thorn and not focus your life around it. Page 97. Eventually, you will have persistently centered consciousness. Persistently centered consciousness is the seat of the self. In this state, you're always conscious of being conscious. There's never a time when you're not totally aware. There's no effort. There's no doing anything. You're just there, aware that the thoughts and emotions are being created around you, while the world unfolds before your senses. Page 99. One of the essential requirements for true spiritual growth and deep personal transformation is coming to peace with pain. No expansion or evolution can take place without change, and periods of change are not always comfortable. Change involves challenging what is familiar to us and daring to question our traditional needs for safety, comfort, and control. This is often perceived as a painful experience. Page 105. If you want to be free, you must first accept that there is pain in your heart. You have stored it there, and you've done everything you can think of to keep it there deep inside so that you never have to feel it. There's also tremendous joy, beauty, love, and peace within you, but they're on the other side of the pain. On the other side of the pain is ecstasy. On the other side is freedom. Your true greatness hides on the other side of that layer of pain. You must be willing to accept pain in order to pass through to the other side. Just accept that it is in there and that you are going to feel it. Accept that if you relax, it will have its moment before your awareness, and then it will pass. It always does. Page 111. At some point in your growth, it starts to become quieter inside. This happens quite naturally as you take a deeper seat within yourself. You then come to realize that though you've always been in there, you've been completely overwhelmed by the constant barrage of thoughts, emotions, and sensory inputs that draw on your consciousness. As you see this, it begins to dawn on you that you might actually be able to go beyond all these disturbances. The more you sit in the seat of witness consciousness, the more you realize that since you are completely independent of what you are watching, there must be a way to break free of the magical hold that the psyche has on your awareness. There must be a way out. Page 116. When you approach the barrier areas of your thoughts and emotions, it feels like going into an abyss. And you don't want to go near that place, but you can go there. And if you want to get out, you will go there. Eventually, you will realize that darkness is not what's really there. What is really there are the walls that are blocking the infinite light. When you're looking for light, that is a crucial distinction. If you see a wall and it is protecting you from unending darkness, you will not want to go there. But if you see a wall that is blocking the light, you will want to go there in order to remove the wall. It is often said that you must go through the darkest night in order to get to the infinite light. This is because what we call darkness is really the blockage of light. You must go past these walls. I'm on page 118, and this will be the final passage that I share today. Imagine your house of thoughts standing in the middle of an ocean of light from 1 trillion stars. Imagine your awareness trapped inside the darkness of that house, struggling daily to live off the artificial light of your limited experiences. Now, imagine the walls crumbling down and the effortless release of consciousness expanding into the brilliance of what is and always was. Now give that experience a name: enlightenment.